this is the way the players come on, and I've not actually seen the youngsters this season, but I'm talking to Tony Giles, who posts some of the reports on the website about them, and he has been giving me glowing reports about the talent that's in those youngsters. And I think, the conveyor belt of talent that we've seen coming through, that, in the first team now gives us Tom Fitt, Michael West, Chris Henry, that conveyor belt is performing, to full capacity. And, some of those youngsters, I think we may find one or two on the fringe of the first team squad next season.
Wow, well that's exciting. And are these kids, are they mostly from Kent?
Generally speaking, they are. Although the reputation of our youth scheme is spreading far and wide. And one of the guys involved in the administration is a guy called Nick Chaplin, who I've known for many, many years. And in fact, he was the director of the club alongside me 20 years ago. And, he tells me that they recruit players approach them from all over the county, from Sussex and even further afield, because they know that, they see youngsters getting their chance, they see youngsters progressing up to, the Football League, as in the case of John Kindy. And certainly the way we develop the players and produce them and deliver them to the first team squad is something that is enhancing our ability to bring youngsters in.
Yeah, and when we look at the bigger picture, which is promotion to the Loose Grad Prem, and then League Two, obviously the youth system is important, and it's just great to see these young players coming.
Well, it's important to any club, and even if you go to the top of the Premiership, Chelsea, having invested hundreds of millions of pounds in players over the last, 10 years since Roman Abramovich went in there. Now, their youth system, the pitches that they play on, the facilities at the training ground in Cobham, they've invested hugely in developing their youth system, both domestically and internationally, bringing in, basically kids, young boys from all over the world to train them and develop them. And now Chelsea are beginning to see the fruits of that gradually coming through. And, there's going to be less reliance on even a club like Chelsea, spending, 80 million or something to bring a player in, when they can develop their own talent in-house.
Yeah, and one of the advantages of developing a player in-house is that you see them grow, not only physically, but psychologically, their maturity. So that's always been an advantage of keeping your own the homegrown players. Because that's true in America with baseball, with the farm system.
I think a good example with Chelsea is John Terry, who's been an inspirational skipper for them for many years, and he came up through the youth ranks of the club, and he has got Chelsea written all the way through. If you cut his arm, it'll say Chelsea inside, and that's what happens when a kid is developed by a club, and the club shows support for the young boy, and they develop together. That affinity grows with the player, and they feel committed, and they give everything they've got to the club, and the club, in return, supports them and rewards them, and it's a partnership that can work out for both parties.
Yeah. Well, we can see that with Michael West, right? I mean,
Michael West. I think as a youngster he was at Fulham and didn't make the grade. But I believe he lived down near Maidstone at West Malling. And Michael came to the fleet And, you know, the development since he's been with us has been dramatic. And this year, well, it's a real pleasure to see Michael doing so well. You know, having seen him play for the youth team, you know, Michael has always had talent, there's no doubt about that, but now he's adding not just, you know, the physical side to his game, but he's got some cunning, and he's got guile, and, you know, you can see that, you know, he has got the ability to outthink his opponents as well as outplay them. And I think Michael is going to go a long way in the game.
Yeah. And let's just hope he keeps scoring for us this year.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to think that he'll go a long way with us, but you never know. Football's a funny game, as they say, and maybe Michael will be snapped up by one of the bigger clubs, because certainly, you know, scouts are hovering around Stonebridge Road when we play these days, because we've got a lot of exciting players.
Wow. Well, I guess that's about all I have.
Well, I've got to tell you one thing. Usually you ask me if the game tomorrow is going to be commentary online. And with all the games cancelled in Kent this weekend, what we're going to do, and if you go to the BBC Radio Kent website and go to Listen Live, what we're going to do between 3 and 5 tomorrow is the different reporters that cover the games, we're going to have like a round table discussion in the studio. And if anybody wants to email questions in, they should, you know, email points or questions into the studio. But I'm going to be sitting at home here just outside of Northleaf, and I've got a piece of broadcasting kit that means I can dial into the studio and it sounds just like I'm in the studio. So I'll be here in my living room broadcasting to BBC Radio Kent. It's going to be a bizarre experience.
All right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I'll put that bit of news up right away. And so it's tomorrow, BBC Kent, 3 to 5, obviously 3 to 5. 3 to 5, and we'll be talking about all kinds of things about Kent football, including things like, you know, what would you give different personalities in Kent football for Christmas? You know, what would somebody give Liam for Christmas? You know, maybe a shaver or something, I don't know. But he has a habit of growing that beard.
I tell you what, he's the one who's warm at the moment with that beard. He ain't chewed it.
All right. Well,
it's good to speak to you, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about some more football being played when we talk next week.
Yes, sir. All right.
Take care. Have a good weekend and drive safely.
Bye. Do you want to talk about a Fleet player of the past?
Well, I've got a slight twist on that.
Okay.
In that this week, one of the papers that I write for is the Gravesend Reporter, and they asked me to do a kind of mid-season review of how things have gone so far. And one of the challenges they set me was to pick out 4 players that have been outstanding this season. Now, on the face of it, that seems quite a straightforward challenge. But when you actually sit down and think about it, who doesn't deserve to be in that group of 4? And when you start to analyse it, you pretty much across the team, across the squad, you've got players that really do earn their right to be in that group of the top 4. And I was with some guys last night from the BBC Radio Kent sports team, and I was asking them to guess which 4 players I picked. And they got there in the end, but they didn't work it out straight away. But I can exclusively reveal my selection to you, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because, of course, you've got players in the team like Michael West, who, you know, with his goals and his flair, is attracting all sorts of attention. You know, Ashley Carew, absolutely fantastic in midfield, the way he, you know, opens up creative opportunities for the side. You know, you've got at the back people like Craig Stone and Clint Easton and Derek Duncan. But the 4 that I picked were Preston Edwards, Paul Lorraine, Ram Marwa, and Callum Willock. And I picked them because Preston Edwards, I think we've rehabilitated him after a pretty grim time that he had at Grays, to such a point where he's largely underused in the fleet goal, but when he is called upon, he performs excellently and has earned his place in the England C international squad. Paul Lorraine, well, I don't think I need to say too much about Paul, other than he's the leader of the pack, he's the skipper, he's the captain, and he's a real warrior that not only his teammates respond to, but the fans do as well. Ram Marwa, a pick, a former Hayden Yedding player, in fact, who's going to want to do really well tomorrow. But Ram does all the dirty work in midfield. He's always available, picks up the scraps, goes in where the boots are flying, and he keeps the ball moving forward when otherwise it might get bogged down in midfield. And then the man up top, Callum Willock, who, well, is an outstanding contributor to the team's success, playing largely with his back to goal, taking the punishment from the central defenders of the opposition, but also managing to get six on, to hold the ball in, and to create openings for the players around him, like Michael West. And he really is an old-fashioned centre-forward that leads the line with intelligence. So you add those four together, and what have you got? You've got the spine of the team. You've got the goalkeeper to the centre-back, to the centre-midfield, to the centre-forward, and that spine of the team, for me, has been rock solid this season. And I think apart from maybe one appearance from Ram, they've pretty much been ever-present as well. And they are a quartet that I think would compete with anybody in this league, and certainly would hold their own against many of the sides in the Blue Square Premier. So my mid-season report, the four players that I picked out are Preston Edwards, Ram Marwa, Paul Lorraine, and Callum Willock. I wonder what other fans think.
Well, thank you for that exclusive, and I think it'd be hard to disagree. I mean, maybe I might pick Michael West, but I like Ram Marwa because, as you said often, he does the dirty work, and not glamorous, but he's an important piece. So